Have you ever been the funniest person in the group chat, but the quietest one at the actual table? You can craft the perfect reply, drop the perfect meme, keep a whole conversation going for hours through a screen. But the second you sit down across from someone at a restaurant booth, your mind goes blank. Here's what nobody tells you. That's not because you're boring. It's because your brain has been trained to communicate the wrong way. And the real reason behind it, the one nobody talks about, I'm saving that for the very end. Because once you hear it, it's going to change the way you think about every conversation you've ever had. Let me start with something I'm not proud of. I used to spend 10 minutes crafting a single text. 10 minutes. To sound casual. I'd type something out, delete it, rewrite it, add a haha so I didn't sound too serious, then delete the haha because it seemed forced, then add it back. I'd screenshot the conversation and send it to my best friend, asking, "Does this sound okay?" For a text. A single text. And honestly, it worked. Over text, I was funny. I was smooth. I had perfect timing because I could control the timing. I'd wait just long enough before replying so I didn't seem desperate. I'd pick the right emoji, the right meme, the right moment to be vulnerable. I had 3 different versions of every reply drafted in my head before I picked the coolest one. On iMessage, I was magnetic. In the group chat, I was the one people waited to hear from. But here's what I didn't realize. I wasn't a great communicator. I was a great editor. Every message I sent was a rough draft that got polished before anyone saw it. I was curating a version of myself that didn't actually exist in real time. The me in those texts was like a highlight reel. Funny, confident, effortless. But none of it was effortless. It was the most effort I'd ever put into anything. And it turns out I'm not alone. 65% of Gen Z and millennials now communicate with each other more digitally than in person. That's not a personal flaw. That's an entire generation that got trained to connect through screens. We learned to express ourselves with keyboards, not voices, with emojis, not eye contact, with perfectly timed replies, not real-time reactions. Nobody calls anymore. Nobody knocks on your door. You text first. Always. You plan everything through the group chat. You reply to someone's Instagram story instead of calling them to say, "Hey, how are you?" And I thought that made me good at connecting. Until I sat down across from someone in real life and realized I had nothing. Here's what that looks like in real life. You're at a coffee shop downtown. First date. Someone you've been texting for weeks. The conversation over text was incredible. Witty, effortless, electric. You felt like you already knew each other. Then you sit down across from them, and your mind goes completely blank. They ask you something simple. "So, what do you do for fun?" And your brain just buffers, like a YouTube video on bad Wi-Fi. You know the answer. You've typed it 100 times. But right now, sitting here, with their eyes on you, with no delete button, no time to draft 3 versions of your response, you freeze. So you do what you always do. You laugh nervously. You look down at the table. You pull out your phone and pretend to check a notification that doesn't exist. You think that makes the awkwardness less obvious. But what you're actually doing is announcing to everyone in that coffee shop, "I'd rather be anywhere but here." I've done this at networking events. Done it at Thanksgiving dinner when my uncle asked me a question. Done it at pre-games where everyone's talking and I'm just standing there, arms crossed, smiling at nothing, waiting for someone to include me. And here's why it happens. Texting removed the 3 hardest parts of real conversation: the pressure to respond instantly, the need to read body language, and the terror of silence. When you text, silence is just time between messages. When you're face-to-face, silence feels like failure. So your brain never learned to handle those 3 things. You trained for a completely different sport and then showed up to the wrong game. But here's the twist. Texting itself isn't the villain. Research from the University of Northern Iowa actually found that texting and social media can aid face-to-face communication in close relationships. It was never meant to replace real conversation. It was designed to support it, to keep connections warm between the moments you actually see each other. The problem is, we stopped using it as a bridge. We made it the whole road. And now we're standing in front of real people with a skill set built entirely for screens. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because once you understand why you freeze, you can start to fix it. The first technique I call the 5-second rule, and it changed everything for me. When you're texting, you have unlimited time. You can sit there for 2 minutes thinking of the perfect reply. But in real life, that 2-minute pause is a dead conversation. So here's what I started doing. When a thought pops into my head during a conversation, I say it within 5 seconds. Before my brain has time to edit it. Before I can rewrite it 3 times in my head and pick the safest version. I tested this at an office happy hour last month. Someone mentioned they'd just gotten back from a road trip. Old me would have nodded, smiled, said nothing, then later that night texted them something clever about it. But this time, within 5 seconds, I just said, "Where'd you go? I've been dying to get out of the city." It wasn't smooth. It wasn't some perfectly crafted response. But it was real. And they lit up. We talked for 20 minutes. Here's what I realized. In texting, imperfection feels like failure. In real life, imperfection feels like honesty. And honesty is what makes people actually want to talk to you. The second technique is read the room, not the screen. When you're texting, you read emotions through emojis, punctuation, how fast someone replies. But in person, none of that exists. Instead, you've got eyes, hands, posture, the way someone shifts their weight or looks away when they're uncomfortable. I used to miss all of that. I'd be so stuck in my own head, rehearsing what to say next, that I wasn't actually looking at the person in front of me. So I started doing something simple. Before I respond to anyone, I look at their eyes for just 3 seconds. Not staring, just noticing. Are they engaged? Are they distracted? Are they leaning in or pulling back? That tiny pause creates something no text message ever can. Presence. You're not just hearing them, you're seeing them. And people can feel the difference immediately. I tried this with my new roommate during our first real conversation. Instead of glancing at my phone between sentences, I just looked at her when she talked. She later told me, "You're one of the only people who actually listens." All I did was pay attention with my eyes instead of my thumbs. If any of this is sounding way too familiar, hit that like button, because honestly, the algorithm needs to show this to more people who are stuck in the same cycle. Now, the third technique, and this one is the hardest. Embrace the silence. You know that feeling when someone FaceTimes you without warning and you panic? That panic comes from the same place. We've been trained to believe that silence equals awkwardness. In a text conversation, if someone leaves you on read, it feels terrible. A gap in the chat feels like rejection. But in person, silence means something completely different. It means you're thinking. It means you're listening. It means you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. I was at a family reunion, sitting with my cousin, and the conversation hit a natural pause. Old me would have grabbed my phone instantly, filled the space with something, anything. But instead, I just sat there, comfortable, present. And after a few seconds, she said something she'd clearly been holding back. Something real. Something she probably never would have said if I'd been scrolling through my notifications. The most magnetic people in any room aren't the loudest ones. They're the ones who are most comfortable when nobody's talking. But here's what I need you to understand. These are just techniques. They'll help, absolutely. But the real game changer, the one that makes all of this 10 times easier, is coming up next. And it's probably something you're doing wrong right now without even knowing it. Remember what I promised you at the beginning? Here it is. The real reason you're great at texting, but terrible in person. You're trying to be your texting self in real life. Think about it. Every time you sit across from someone, you're trying to be that version. The witty one, the one with perfect timing, the one who always knows exactly what to say. You're trying to perform in real time, the way you perform with an edit button. And that pressure, that impossible standard you've set for yourself, is exactly what makes you freeze. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Your texting self isn't the real you. It's the edited you, the curated you, the version that took 10 minutes to sound effortless. That's not connection, that's a performance. Your in-person self, the one that stumbles over words, that laughs at the wrong time, that says too much, that's the real you. And that version, the messy, unfiltered, imperfect version, that's the one people actually connect with. It's the strangest paradox. When you stop trying to be interesting, you become interesting. When you stop performing for approval, people actually want to give it to you. And deep down, you already know this. Over half of Gen Z, 54%, strongly agree that in-person relationships are more valuable than digital ones. You feel it. You know a text thread will never match sitting across from someone and hearing them laugh for real. You've always known. You don't need better texting skills. You don't need smoother lines. You don't need to rehearse what to say before every coffee date or happy hour or family dinner. You just need permission to be human, to show up unedited. Not your highlight reel, not your perfectly crafted message, just you. So here's what I want you to do. Next time you're sitting across from someone at a diner and your mind goes blank and your hand reaches for your phone, don't. Just sit there. Let the silence exist. Let yourself be awkward for a second. Because that second of awkwardness is more real than any text you've ever sent. Your group chat will still be there when you look down. The notifications aren't going anywhere. But the person sitting across from you might be. Put the phone face down on the table. Look up. Be there. The best version of you was never in your phone. It's been sitting right here the whole time. Let people finally meet that person.